Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. I'm your captain, Jimbob Ovalshorts, and tonight I've got yet another one of these lost episodes, as I've been calling them. This one was originally filmed on May 3rd of 2023 with an author by the name of Tim Moons, who wrote the book Tomato Fields. If you're unfamiliar, there's totally going to be a link with this episode so that you can go check it out. It has to do with Bigfoot and other things surrounding Bigfoot, so you know that I'm right in the middle of that because you guys know how I feel about Bigfoot and everything Bigfoot related. So I was really looking forward to this conversation and so glad I finally get to share it with you guys. Luis, Ox, and Bandit joined me in this conversation, and Tim just got into his book a good bit. We talked a lot about Bigfoot and just a lot about everything. You know how this show goes, man. It's an ADHD person's, heaven, because we're just all over the place all the friggin' time. But yeah, it was a very, very good episode. I had a whole lot of fun filming it, and I feel bad that it's just now releasing. But hey, what can you do when technology does what it wants? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just kind of how it rolls around here. But of course, anything that we do talk about in this episode or anything you need to get back to Tim and his book will all be with this episode. Links, of course, with wherever you consume the episode, and of course at everyone's favorite website, unconstitutionalawakening.com, your home for everything else, man. We got all kinds of great things going on over here all the time. You guys know the routine. Y'all come check it on out, give it a look, catch up, see if there's something you ain't seen in there in a while. There's links to find us on all of our visual channels. There's links to find us on all of our audio channels. You can listen to the show right here on the website. There's links to get back to our sweet merch store to get you some awesome UA merch. And there's even some links to get back to our friends in Liberty over there. Kirk Elliott, Peachy Key Creations, Ammo Can Survival, Brett Pike with Classical Learner and Homeschools Connected, and Pure Pet Wellness. And now, of course, you guys, if you can go give all that stuff some love and even make sure you get over there and give Tim some love, that'd be real great, man. So, but I reckon I'm gonna quit running my mouth and weigh anchors so that we can get started on this guy.
As I was telling you guys in the intro there, I've got a pretty full house this evening because we're all excited to have a very special guest tonight, Mr. Tim Moon. He is an author and just educator and all-around cool guy, you guys. I'm really excited for this conversation. So, Tim, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Oh, fantabulous, sir. Fantabulous, man. So I'm just going to come, right off the rip, man. I got to know, what led you, because I've actually been reading over your book, man. It was super interesting to me, and since I already have the Kindle account, I jumped right in there and gave it a read. And what led you to want to even investigate into that, dude? That was just bam. And please feel free to update anybody about anything around at your book Tomato Fields, man. That thing was just, it's pretty interesting read, man, if you're into this kind of stuff.
Well, I have been studying the idea of Bigfoot for a long, long time. I don't know if you ever heard of the movie, The Legend of Bogey Creek. Have you ever heard of that?
Sounds familiar.
It was a very low budget movie made about the Hulk monster in Arkansas in 1970 or 68 or 70. And it turned into kind of a cult film because it got so popular. I mean, he made a ton of money on that because it was so popular, but it was so low budget. It was all money for him. And but it was the first real movie that came out that proposed the idea of Bigfoot. And when I saw it, I just was captivated by that. And I've been interested in the subject ever since. And that was in the 70s. So, and then my brother and I were doing some work together. He's a contractor, and we were helping my uncle with something. And I think the show Bigfoot one of the Bigfoot shows came up, and I asked him if he ever seen it. What's the strangest thing he's ever seen in the woods? And he started telling me about this story where this Bigfoot came out when he was working on the trailer of his truck, and screamed at him and freaked him out and scared the hell out of him. And he ran into his house and grabbed a shotgun, and he thought it was coming after him, and he looked back out the window after he got his shotgun, and it just stopped screaming, turned around, and walked back in the woods. And it was probably 8 feet tall, maybe bigger. We've measured the tree or the light pole that it was standing next to. And it probably it was in Washington State, in Mason County, the same place that I used to write the book.
Yes.
And it was in the 90s, 94, I think, is the date that happened to him. He'd never seen anything like it before. He's heard it since one other time, but he's never seen it again. And it freaked him out pretty bad. He never told anybody, and he started telling me the story. I couldn't believe it. And I mean, that you can't have too many things, more elements to a story than he saw. He heard it, he smelled it, it screamed at him, he ran from it. There's just, most stories are little parts of that, but not all of those things at the same time.
Sure.
And so I was a little shocked that all of a sudden I was finding that out. He's been my brother all my life. I never knew about that. So, and I'd personally been thinking about using fiction, telling stories. People like stories, and I think in some cases they learn better from stories than they do from facts. And so I thought maybe I could tell some interesting stories involving these creatures in some way or another that would draw more people to the subject and maybe make it seem more real to them. And so I just took everything I'd been learning and used his story as a little bit of an inspiration, and then just took off from there and wrote the book on, around that area, and just made up the characters and made up the situation, but
have you ever done any like aside from that thing with your, with that, have you ever done any like investigating yourself over all these years?
Very minor. And it was in the area where he lives that we went and did a little bit, and we saw some interesting things, weren't sure, nothing that would have been as realistic as something staring at you and screaming at you. But,
sure.
And there are some places. I live in Texas. He lives in Washington, so I only see him when I go up there, but I live in Texas, and there's some places in Texas that are pretty active.
Oh, Bigfoot is something we've conversed about quite frequently on here. He's someone that I believe is, scattered all over the planet. Like I'm kind of into the realm of him being inside the earth. A point I made in this little Bigfoot documentary that I was, so thankful to be a part of, was that if you ever look at those cave systems and the missing people's maps, when you put those on top of each other, if you add the Bigfoot sighting map on top of it,
it all fits
very
together.
Close. Oh yeah,
Yep.
It's so close.
It's all very close, and it's probably not coincidental. And I wouldn't doubt them being underground at all. I think I've never seen a map of the underground cave, so I don't even know what that looks like. I've only seen the map of the national forest and then the disappearances and the encounters and all of that, which all correspond. But I've never seen one. I would really be interested in seeing one of the underground caves if they have those mapped.
Well, it is, and it seems like, there's, I'm down here in Georgia. We've got two different ends to the spectrum when it comes to sightings of Bigfoot species. Up in North Georgia, you've got, like regular old Bigfoot that folks talk about seeing and such. But down in South Georgia, it's more of the skunk ape, like out in Florida, because it's more of a swampy type area.
Everglades.
Yeah. And with that going on, Georgia is no stranger to the idea of Bigfoot. There's even been middle of Georgia sightings, because down out here in this area, you would consider it part of the foothills of Appalachia, I guess, that it gets it gets quite elevated, and you can actually see, kind of like mountaintop to mountaintop from where you are. And there's all kinds of, there's even a Bigfoot festival that's such a thing in that
I've
particular
heard
area.
I've heard a lot of activity in Georgia and Mississippi and Louisiana and Texas.
And so of course, me too. He's always been one that I've been super, infatuated with. That was
you bring up Texas. Okay, so this brings up a very crazy story that was recently released from a ranch in Texas. Had a few dozen cattle that were killed. They had their internal organs removed and their eyes removed and their tongues removed, but there was no blood loss.
Yeah, I would say that's probably more related to UFOs than the Bigfoot. Bigfoot will gut an animal. They might eat their eyeballs and their tongues off, but they probably won't leave them bloodless. They probably will bleed. So that's my guess, is that would have been maybe a UFO thing, like the Skinwalker thing and Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm kind of lumping the cryptid family as a whole when thinking of something like that. It has to be something within that family of cryptids.
Yeah, possible.
So is there anything outside of, the Bigfoot realm that you particularly have ever gotten into very much, that you care about, or or even brought any interest to?
Just well, in terms of paranormal type stuff, I've been interested in UFOs too, and done some study on that. Have you ever heard of the 411 book?
I have.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things that he writes about were actually involved UFOs more than Bigfoot. Some of it is probably related to Bigfoot, but I think there's just weird disappearances that always fascinate me. Strange disappearances fascinate me.
Was this the same as the Hulu series Missing 411?
411 is a former police officer who started hearing about people disappearing in national parks, and he started doing the research.
This is the same. They did a Hulu series called Missing 411.
Yes,
and it has some of the most extreme, data as far as contact with the paranormal. There was one episode in that series that dealt with some big game hunters in Wyoming. Was it Wyoming, I think, where they would go up there in the 70s and 80s. They would go up there and elk hunting. And they had this camp that only they knew about. There was no cabin, no nothing. They had pulled these trees together to make sort of like a shelter. And they had videotaped one night in particular of contact with something that was not the only thing that they can come up with. It was something not of this earth. It was not something not from Earth. It is one of the best audio recordings of something. And they've already run it through so many different filters, and they've sent it off to so many different agencies, and they have proven time and time again that it wasn't faked audio. It was legit audio, and that the audio was not. It was not an animal. It wasn't human.
Yeah, those things happen out there. It's kind of scary. I wouldn't want to be out there alone.
Let me see if I can find this audio.
We get, a good way to get Bandit going over here is he's big into the lore of the Wendigo. Like that is his go-to right there when we get to talking about cryptids.
Yeah, that isn't something I know much about, but I'm curious about all of them. So
We had
I'm
a
open.
really awesome fellow on here one time back. He's a host of another show actually. That's like his specialty, man. Like I was actually excited to speak with him and learn from him because he's that's something he has taken some time into, man. All these cryptids have always been something that I've always been fascinated with, and you know, I think there's more to it. I think there's reasons that for all these centuries now, even these beasts have been talked about in different kinds of perspectives and from different areas of the world and stuff like that. And it's fascinating to me to actually see it get kind of its own little revival. You see at one point in time, people on the internet were like, "Oh no, it's a Bigfoot's not real." But to me, he just seems to be making more of a comeback in the most recent months, or maybe it's just me because I pay attention to Bigfoot stuff.
Well, there's a lot of smoke for not having any fire.
Right.
And the smoke exists all over the world in multiple cultures on multiple continents with multiple languages and multiple religions. And they all say about the same thing, that they saw about the same thing, experienced about the same thing, which how could people do that? How could that be happening and not be real? So I also have begun to think that it's a microcosm of a bigger macrocosm. And I think that the real mystery is related to what we really are in the universe, and the fact that we're a small planet in a small solar system, in a small galaxy amongst billions of galaxies and trillions of planets, that there's so much going on out there that we just don't know about. And I think when the government's open to saying, what they know, what's really going on out there, I think the Bigfoot and some of these cryptid mysteries will all fall into place, and we'll say, "Oh, well, that makes sense now." I think it's related to who we are on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I think it's being covered up to a degree. I think the government knows more than they want to talk about, and
Oh, absolutely.
and they lie. They lie all the time, and I really can't trust anything they say anymore.
Absolutely. I'm on that too. And when it comes to having all of that out there, there's two routes that you can really go with that, and it's either the route of there are millions of other species, and that's totally terrifying because why do they seem to be leaving us alone? Or B, we're an anomaly and all that stuff isn't real. And either option is terrifying. You know what I mean?
Or they're not leaving us alone.
Maybe.
I mean, these disappearances could be part of that.
Now, and I always hate to take it in this route. Maybe not, but it's just me. But you made that attestment to, the lying factor side of like the government and such, and like we've covered entire series episodes actually of like the companies that have built UFO like devices since post World War II and such.
Yeah.
And there are from what I gather, there are so many black ops going on out there within 3-letter agencies that people don't actually know, in these different agencies, what is going on. Is there somebody out here is building a spaceship, and of course the FBI doesn't know about it because it's some kind of black op through the CIA, that's actually through NASA or something like this. And it's, and I hate to be this guy, but human trafficking seems to be the world governments in a whole kind of main staple when it comes to things. Like, people do go missing a lot, and I do want to say I know for a fact it's not just an American thing. Like people go missing all over the world like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a terrifying thing. You to think about one moment you could just vanish like that from thin air and nobody knows where you're headed.
And since it's not like 30 people in one town, small town, disappear all at once, everyone just looks at it, oh, well, it's just an anomaly. We can't understand it. They don't make, but if you count up all those people that disappear in different places, it gets into the thousands.
Yeah.
Then it's a big deal. Then it's a big deal, but it's like, it just doesn't occur to people that it's that important, because it seems like just one person from Albuquerque or, and you know, I guess that happens sometimes. So they don't take it serious.
And I don't think they take it serious either, because of, like, you know, you can add on to it. They do things like, I used to remember seeing the boards all over places, not just Walmart or, you know, maybe the grocery store or other stuff like that, you know, like the actual missing people stuff. And you just,
I remember those.
yeah. And I don't really see them anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really see the missing, all the posters. And, you know, you always wonder, like, how many,
it's all online now.
What's the true statistics, though, of people of those that are on those posters, that have been hanging on those posters, that have still never been found? You know what I mean? Like, because you can't trust the people, I think, writing a lot of the statistics for that, because, like, I hate to be this guy, but I think some of your biggest child trafficking issues definitely come from within the government, especially in things like child protective services and stuff like that, man. Like, there's a lot of shady things that have come out to light across the country in multiple places that have been going on with a lot of those places. And it makes you wonder,
the
do they
border
do it worldwide?
The border stuff's all related to child
That too. Yeah.
And drugs. And so seems like nothing that we see today fits into a conventional explanation. And when I first heard some of those conspiracy theories about child trafficking and stuff, I thought, these guys are nuts. And now I think they're probably right. You know, and these globalist conspiracy type things. And I would have, I'm telling you, 2 years ago, I thought that it was crazy stuff. Isn't that wild? And now you'd have to convince me it's not true. And it's just, we're just living in, it's like complete la-la land, you know?
Well, I would mention, out of the 40 million slaves in the world, about half are sex slaves.
Yep.
So, and when I mean slaves, I mean genuine, controlled individuals with limited access to many different things. I don't mean a wage slaves, because if we go through the concept of wage slavery, well, then that's
even more
people.
Oh yeah, but like, okay,
if we broaden the definition of slave, we're going more on the classical approach of slavery, of where you're limited.
A bunch in Atlanta. It was a thing back in, like, the teens, like the 2000 teens or whatever. There were many different busts in Atlanta of Korean karaoke bars that were not what they seemed, or not what you would think they were advertised to be. And that's what it was absolutely full of, was trafficked Asian people, like through a mixture of massage parlors and nail salons and these karaoke bars that they had. Like, it was a whole sting operation thing that, like, I remember seeing all the stuff going down about it, and like all these places closing down because of it. Like, while I was out there in Atlanta driving around, you know, yeah, it was because it's a real thing, though, you know. But who do you turn to when the people trafficking humans seem to be the ones that are supposed to be stopping people from trafficking humans?
We're in a bad situation now, and I hope that, I mean, I can tell you what I think politically. I don't know if that's the place for this show, but
this show is as wild as it gets, my friend.
You're amongst friends.
You're amongst friends in something like this.
I think that I'll just give you some perspective. before Trump ran for president, I did not like him. I did not like the show Apprentice. I thought he was an egotist and I wanted nothing to do with him.
Fair.
Okay. Once I saw him run for president and started watching him, I thought, how can you have someone better in Washington, D.C. than someone who knows how to fire people? You know, because a lot of people in D.C. need to get fired. And I thought, I liked what he was saying. I liked his policies. I liked how much he was attacked, because you know what someone's doing based on who's attacking them.
Sure.
And I think, like I told you before, 2 years ago, I would have thought that all of that stuff about human trafficking and Trump being used to destroy that and, you know, stamp all that out and eventually expose it and get rid of it. I thought that was crazy talk, but now I'm starting to wonder if it's true. And that he may be the solution. And as much as that might bother some people to hear, I don't see any other way. If he doesn't win the presidency, they don't have to figure out a way to get past the election fraud. We're screwed. There isn't a repair. I think it's one. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
I don't. See, I think personally we need, you know, to dissolve the centralized, you know, federal government. Like I think there's.
It's way out of control.
It's way out of control. You know, the Convention of States. I know Texas is a place that is, you know, in constant actual talks of doing things, but I've even seen, you know, Florida, even my own state, that are not on board with the idea of the central bank digital currencies, and they're not on board with a lot of the federal anything, and they're starting to rustle feathers and such because they're looking into things to become their own kind of thing. Like
I just think it might require. I think this federal government is completely out of control.
It is.
It's a corrupt piece of trash.
Yes.
And they need to make that as small as they can possibly make it, as fast as they can make it that way.
I see Ox foaming at the mouth in the corner. I know this is his kind of stuff.
I honestly don't think we can save any part of it. I'm going to throw my opinion out there. I just don't think there's any part we can save when you think that, you know, you can't use a corrupt system against a corrupt system.
You got to kill
thinking that there's going to be any different outcome.
Well, the banking system just collapsed even further when they said yesterday. Meanwhile, 3 hours ago, the Fed said everything's strong. There's some stocks that are they're like down 60%, 30%, 20%, 15%, 11%, 10%, 8%, 5%. Those are all regional banks that are just now imploding. Mm-hmm. As they also gave JP Morgan Chase a $15 billion loan, not a loan. They just gave them away that money when they took over First National Bank.
And then
that's all money laundering.
Yep.
They're paying off their political friends with taxpayers' money. Or really,
that was after money. They said that JP Morgan actually helped Epstein.
Also, JP Morgan should have not been allowed to do that purchase because they already have over 10% of America's deposits.
People keep telling me this is a dead end street, but I'm not going to shut up. Where's the client list? Why isn't it public? Why isn't every person that was delivered by the accused or, you know, judged or whatever human trafficker that's supposedly in prison?
So let's get back to
where's the list?
Let's get back to what we were originally talking about. I think that is no coincidence that if you haven't noticed, there has been a crazy uptick in cryptid sightings lately.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Huge. And
That or people are going into nature more often.
Aliens, and cryptids, and even talk of the Nephilim. I mean,
okay, now I have seen a lot of that again.
There is no coincidence that that they rear their heads whenever there is a possible like collapse of society on the brink.
Did you guys see there's this movie that they did related to. They did a third series. My God, it's this monster movie, and the third version was in outer space, and it was warping reality. My God, it's escaping me, but it was basically reality was shifting between two different and multiple worlds. I'm gonna search it right now. But it's like, what if that's part of it? Like, what if that's part of what's all happening? Like, reality is revealing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's happening all at once, and it's even stranger than we think.
There are, I keep saying this over and over. I know it's kind of crazy, but there are more people in May of 2023 that have kind of started figuring it out than there was when I was sitting there when I was a kid, sitting there, still a kid. I'm telling you, I was a kid. And I seen Building 7 go down, and I'm like, wait, where'd the plane come from? Because there wasn't anything there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was one of those guys at a young age. So, like, it just, to me, even like our friend Tim here, that, you know, like he said, in the past 2 years, he went from going, nah, there's no human trafficking, to, well, maybe there is. Like, I think there's different levels to all of this. And I do think that there are really big realities to a lot of these cryptid things. You know, I don't knock any of them, really. Like, I'm not a guy that goes against the idea of anything that goes bump in the night, whether it be Bigfoot, UFOs, or Chupacabra or something. You know, like, there's all kinds of wild and crazy things out there that we can get into when it comes to that. I'm on the fence in the world of the aliens, though. Like, I think any UFOs we see, I honestly think are some kind of dark black ops project, but I do totally think that there are dimensional type beings.
Oh yeah, people get confused.
Flash here. You know what I'm saying?
I was talking about Cloverfield paradox.
Oh,
that's what I was.
That first one was trippy.
Oh,
man.
Cloverfield. Okay.
That first Cloverfield movie was crazy.
The weird thing is Cloverfield, the second one, it was actually not a Cloverfield movie. They just edited the movie to be a Cloverfield movie. They added the end and they added like one more scene, and they were like, yep, we just repurposed the movie. That was something else completely different.
But I think a lot of people get confused when you know, they speak when they talk about aliens, you know, because everybody's like, as soon as you say aliens, they're like, oh, beings from outer space. Nah, man. No. There are different categories
from inside of the planet.
They can be from inside the planet. They can be interdimensional.
They can be underwater. They can be underwater.
You bring up that's a whole different different episode right there.
Have you seen what's off the coast of California? Have you seen that gigantic weird stuff you can see on Google Maps that's off the coast of California?
Yes, I have.
Let me look it up.
Whereabouts?
Go check it out.
I'm trying to look at it right now, but I think it's off the coast of San Francisco.
It's like it's like a giant, like,
it's like it looks like a building.
Yeah,
that's underwater.
There's a lot of buildings. There's a lot of buildings underwater.
The ocean is the most unsearched place.
There's a pyramid under one of the Great Lakes.
Yes.
How did that get there?
Wait, can I go find that pyramid under the Great Lakes?
You can find that.
I'm gonna go for that one. Forget that dome thing.
Do it. So,
which lake is it? First lake. There's Michigan.
I think it's Michigan, isn't it?
It's Michigan. It's like Michigan, Lake Superior. Which one?
It could be Superior. But you know what? I don't remember. I'm sorry. But I know it's there. I've found it and looked at it before. Because it's not too deep. If it was too deep, they would have never found it. There probably are ones under there that are deeper.
Let's see.
Very well could be.
Well, what is that whole weird comment? Some people say that Egypt was in America. Like, I never understood that. Like,
There's
Well,
crossover.
I've heard that there's stuff in the Great Grand Canyon. They found stuff in the Grand Canyon with mummies and stuff, but I can't prove it, and they got rid of all the evidence. So, but those are the stories I've heard.
Okay,
It
it
is
says
like
traces of a
Michigan.
9,000-year-old unknown civilization discovered in Lake Huron, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I found it.
Yeah.
So it's like Huron. That's interesting.
9,000 years, and they're saying that we all got here 6,000 years ago is when
Oh, dude,
civilization started.
I hate people think it's like, let's use Babylon. I'm like, that doesn't make any
I mean,
sense.
and they keep baffling themselves though, because they keep proving that they're finding
Keep
even
proving
older
themselves wrong.
civilizations. Well, yeah, they keep finding even older civilizations. And on top of that, a trend that I have seen, and that even, like some super famous people that are talking about it now have seen, that is it seems the further you go back, the more advanced it was.
Yeah, well,
And the further you go back, the way further you go back, like, because how old like the pyramids are, for example, like you get into the time frame where it's written that there was no moon.
yeah.
So-
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, so when you get into the time frame that there was no moon, and you think of the idea of such a body being put in our atmosphere, of course there was probably cataclysmic floods and earthquakes and stuff like that that shifted everything and destroyed a once advanced civilization that back to sticks and stones and probably had to start all over again. I could see
Well,
that being
That
the only
happens.
reality completely.
That happens. The Earth does that every million years or so, and it's cataclysmic. It destroys everything when it happens. And so why not? Maybe those pyramids have been around a lot longer than 10,000 years.
You know what I like to think when people talk about cryptids, like even just about like Bigfoot.
I mean, giant
Or-
squid was a cryptid until it was proven real.
Yeah, Bigfoot, the Nephilim, anything. Something makes me think that perhaps those are remnants of a lost civilization on Earth.
All right.
They were left over from a reset.
So in the Solomon Islands, they talk of giants that live underneath Solomon Islands in a cave system. And when you look at their drawn descriptions of them, they look very Bigfoot-esque in size, but they're talked about being giant and red hair, a lot like the ones that are said to be held captive in the Middle East by really rich people and stuff like that, and were found during the Iraq War and stuff like that.
I will simply say that in the Middle East, slavery is so legal that there was slave markets inside of Instagram and Facebook,
Yes.
like open slave markets. And there's a good Deutsche Welle, like DW, which is easier to look up. DW makes good documentaries, made a good one on that, literally showing the slave markets in Instagram. And they informed them, and supposedly they deleted it, but it's still happening. So there's slave markets in Instagram. If you people didn't know, now you know.
Wow. And everybody's worried about slavery that happened
It's on
forever
Facebook.
ago, instead of being worried about slavery that's happening right now. Isn't that amazing?
It's just criminal.
Out of sight, out of mind, right?
It's tragedy. Just tragic.
Because you've also got stuff going on, like there's been some crazy weird things going on over there near like the India-China border for the past 5 years that people haven't been really paying attention to, along with all that kind of stuff too. Like And then you got all kinds of slavery spread throughout not only the Middle East, but you still hear about it in different parts of Africa and stuff to this day.
Well, China has a lot of ambitions in the world, and they have them all over the world, and they are a significant strategic enemy, in my opinion.
Luis, did you see any of those illegal Chinese police stations in your neighborhood?
So I never visited one. I know there's one in Manhattan. I believe I heard something about they're actually working to close them.
Yeah.
At least the one in New York. There are now found in all over the country.
Congress.
There is in every major city now. It looks like they found a Chinese police station. My keyboard's not working right. But look up that. Yeah, there's not. It's not only in New York. It's now all over the United States. But I'll also say there was this random report saying, isn't it interesting? 2,000 military age males just dropped into the border. Okay, so I'm not thinking that they're simply slowly coming in to invade. That would be the weirdest invasion. But honestly, at this rate, anything is possible. But what I will say is lots of upper middle class people are illegally immigrating into the United States because things in China are so bad.
Yeah.
That the upper middle class, that's still like the true middle class of China, is getting the hell out of there. Not the ultra rich. The ultra rich it's like a mix of stuck. And yeah, that's part of the reason they buy like $100 million apartments in New York. It's because they can justify it.
They can only spend their money
on real estate
in so many places.
Yes, and they can invest it in the United States. They can invest it in Canada. That's why Canada blocked foreign investment. They didn't just want to say Chinese investment, but what they really wanted to say was the Canada blocked Chinese investors because they are the ones that were just swallowing up the entire country because they just wanted a vehicle to get their money out. And if you look at Toronto real estate, it makes America's bubble look like a joke because I saw a beautiful TikTok series which is like shitholes in America and Canada and castles in Europe. And it's a beautiful video of a true piece of crap place that's worth $1.2 million in American dollars, I believe, in Canada, and then a castle in I believe in Scotland, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing to watch, like to see that there is such obvious problem with the system. And look at people's income. People's income has not gone up in proportion to the economy. So either the asset class is off or inflation has hit us in a way that we haven't even noticed.
If it's one thing I can say I've noticed my entire life is I've always seen prices go up, but I don't think I've ever seen them come back down. And
I mean, they will now.
I'm seeing some prices go down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about like in the grocery store and stuff like that.
Oh, no. Even in the grocery store, I'm seeing a few things come down.
Yeah.
Not the majority of things are still up there.
So I saw a beautiful chart which displayed pricing in England. And it said basically
because my grocery bills are outrageous right now.
Prices in England, the home prices in England were not affordable until they were affordable in 1910. That was the last time they were affordable, and then they became unaffordable, and so it's insane.
Georgia's is insane too.
Oh, and speaking of the UK, have you seen the outrage over the coronation cost?
Oh gosh, what a joke.
Wait, how much was it?
250 million pounds.
I thought it had to be like 30 million.
Taxpayer money.
Well, who else's money does leeches ever use?
Why?
What do they ever do? They never do anything for any of that money. It's just
no.
It's
Exactly.
the biggest waste of money that you can possibly then
they're a waste of human flesh. I mean, the royal family should cease to function, and they should strip them of all assets and just deliver those assets back to a collective trust that pays for government for housing of the people of the UK.
Yes.
I don't know.
Maybe
If you, I don't
pays
know.
off some of their debt.
Strip
I don't
them
know if
of
any of
all
you
the power
guys-
and just literally throw them with $1 million. Here you go. $1 million
I don't know
each
if
of
any of
you.
you guys
Your
subscribe
assets
to
have
the
been
Sun
seized.
or the Globe or whatever. You know, the super crazy tabloids or whatever that people
Yes.
see. Okay, listen. I've
Queen
enjoyed
of
them my
England did
entire.
nothing for
I've
anybody.
enjoyed them my entire life because they're great and sometimes they're more true than anybody else has been. And they were talking actually on the front page about that and him being completely dementia out of his fucking mind, just like Puddin' Brain over here. So
They're one and the same. How bad it is. Seriously, though, people are absolutely like fed up with this, man.
Yeah, they are. People are done.
You have a guy that is worth £2 billion of registered wealth, not including the stolen artwork, the stolen
That
jewels,
goes up
and
to
everything like that.
100+
Sitting
billion.
in a golden palace. Yeah. Sitting in a golden palace on a golden throne, wearing a crown that is so heavy with stolen jewels that he can only wear it for 30 minutes at a time. It is so heavy. While the country itself, you have a housing crisis, a food crisis, a wage crisis, poverty crisis, immigration crisis, crime crisis,
stabbed.
everything.
You have to register your knives now.
Mm-hmm. And now he is demanding $250 million of taxpayer money to fund his coronation. And he demands the entire population of the UK pledge their undying loyalty to the king.
You're kidding.
That is some arrogance, man. That is some
So
arrogance.
sausage fingers is gonna get beheaded by the people of the UK if he keeps talking like that.
Which is crazy because the French are like ready to go with the
Oh, the
guillotine.
French are already like sharpening guillotines.
But
France is done, man.
What if the English beat them to it? What if the English actually ready to go like right now?
The thing is, I expected May to be more accelerating, but I think Germany is also going to be part of it because Germany has been planning a mass strike. So
Germans?
Yes, the Germans. Look up mass strike Germany.
Poland. Watch out, man.
Poland has technically Poland has been doing better economically than all these countries. So there's that.
Better watch out.
Poland has a different issue. Poland's now getting invaded by Ukraine cheap crops, and they're saying we are not going to take basically subpar products that don't pass by regular inspections and regulations. So you're forcing us to accept products that are lower grade than ours into the market, destabilizing our market. And I don't know why Ukraine just doesn't sell it to all of the markets that they usually sold it to in Africa. So there's that whole debate. And that
so basically all of the European countries that sanctioned Russia.
Well, I think Ukraine war is being fought for. It has nothing to do with Ukrainian freedom. It has everything to do with globalism. And did you notice the Ukraine?
You ain't lying about that.
The Ukraine war broke out. When did it break out?
2014?
Yeah.
Was it 2014?
No. I'm talking, when did Biden start talking about we've got to go to Ukraine?
Oh, yeah.
Right after they stopped the Constitution, stopped the COVID from mandating the vaccines, and they knew the jig was up now. So they have to go start a conflict somewhere else. And that was the Ukraine.
And we've got it going on in Taiwan and with China right now, too.
Well, and Taiwan's the real threat, not Ukraine. Taiwan's the one that has all the technology.
It does.
Ukraine has food. They have food. Yeah, that's good. be good. But what they're doing
But
there
there's
is tragic.
okay, so there are a ton of and this is a creepy fact that you could look into if you'd like. There are a ton of pharmaceutical companies
That's right.
located in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been but tons of money laundering, not only through the war, but through all of these pharmaceutical companies as well, because they lobby it right back into the government's hands to make sure things go their way. So
they've given so much money to them.
And on top of the fact that there's a lot of them like Biden who have been doing it for 50 years. I know I'm not in the realm of actually believing in using any kind of system or whatever, but like, even I think that at some point there should be some kind of limitation at how long you can just continue to be a criminal for the country. You know what I mean? Like that, there should have never been the ability to be a lifelong politician like that.
Well, this is something as soon as Obama won the Democratic primary, first thing he did was select Biden as vice president. And I thought to myself, because I'd watched Biden for 30 years, he's a complete imbecile. He has no capacity to do anything but screw up. If you give him 30 seconds, he'll say something stupid. And he's been doing it for 50 years. And I thought, why would Obama take a guy who is a complete, crazy man, okay, to be his running mate right off the bat? And I thought that just is stupid. Why is he's going to have to hide him in the vice president's house for 8 years? And now I know why, because he owned Congress. He was in everybody's pockets. Everybody was indebted to him. And he had all this money from all these bribes that he's been taking all over the world. And he just told Obama, if you want to be president, I'm going to be your vice president.
I can see that, because I mean, you're talking about.
I don't see any other way it would happen.
He is by far one of the biggest criminals alive in government today. Like, I mean, if you look at anything that he has taken part of, whether it be part of writing or part of backing or part of pushing through in all those years doing other things in the government, it's clear that he's, it's not like it was just yesterday that he started being corrupt. It's clear that he's been corrupt, been a source of corruption for a very long time. You can go back and see heck, I think I've lost or been at least on bans for it before or whatever. But when you start sharing pictures of him hanging out with old school Klan leaders and stuff back in like the 70s and stuff like this, and people are just like, no, that's not true. And you're just like, dude, no, like this dude was bad from the get-go. And it's not, I will say this too, it's not just him. You've got people in there like Pelosi and, even people like Purdue and other people that have been in the government for a long number of years that seem to have all this money from stocks and all these,
Mitch McConnell, he's one of the biggest crooks in DC. And he calls himself a conservative. He's a criminal. And so is Cornyn from Texas.
Yeah.
He just went right along with all the money laundering that the Biden administration has been doing.
They're all criminals.
It's tragedy. It's a tragedy. And they are criminals.
To me, it's great to see that more people are starting to vocalize this. There are a lot more people looking at this, and there are more people that have been starting down what I feel is a very positive solution. Like in my idea is, they're trying to distance themselves from just even the ideas that things like this are even portraying and stuff like this. The idea of decentralization is is one of those ideas you really can't kill. You know, once you light that fire and you start talking to people about voluntarism, and you start talking about people about how, you know, we don't really need all those idiots in Washington calling all of these shots on a day-to-day basis. We've got, you know, plenty of people. Yeah, a lot of these places would run just fine. Heck, even without a complete state government, I'll be honest. I think a lot of local governments could do a better job than most of the state governments too could in some aspects. But it's about just taking a lot of matters into our own hands. And I'm not trying to be like raising the idea of violence or whatever. I'm just trying to raise the idea of prepare for the worst and expect the best, kind of, or one of those ways. I might have said it backwards, but one of those deals where you're, you know, just be ready for whatever you need to take so that you can just take care of yourself, because Washington is going to do a good job at getting Washington nuked. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Let's say those words, because Kremlin, either that's real or fake. I don't know if you just mentioned Russia and the potential.
Oh no, I
didn't mention that, but you can.
No. I just sent the article over to the group chat of the drone striking just above the Kremlin when it was shot down. And
was that a false flag? Was that Ukraine? Was that United States?
Who knows, man? Who knows? But
it's not bueno. It's not bueno.
That's not good, man. And Russia's strategic nuclear force has just been put on its highest alert.
Like, what? How much shit would go insane if that?
And hold on, I got one better. They've activated all of their like high altitude strategic bombers, and they've got unconfirmed reports of nuclear weapons at the airfields.
My friend today told me
just a couple of hours ago, a MiG high altitude strategic just took off with a hypersonic missile attached.
Okay, so my friend jokingly says, "Hey, you think an AI is going to destroy the world in 6 months?" And I'm like, I don't think so. Not yet.
Is that AI? Is that AI called Russia?
Right. You guys ever heard of Roscoe's basilisk? No. Never heard.
Can I?
No, please.
Say something about Russia, because there's a lot of misunderstanding with Russia, and I've studied.
Oh no, there's no misunderstandings.
You know that Russia isn't the enemy. I think that the globalists that Biden is part of is the enemy. If Russia wanted a nuclear war, they'd already have it.
Can I say one thing real quick? It's not Biden, because Biden doesn't know 6 a.m. from 6 p.m.
Well, I know. I mean, he's just a symbol.
Yeah, he's just a symbol.
But something bigger is going on here, because Russia has had every opportunity to escalate this thing. We blew up their pipeline. Okay? They had every reason to do this, and they didn't. They've been more restrained than we have. And when I say we, I don't say me. I'm saying the forces that are funding this, and the propaganda that's funding this. We are really on ridiculous grounds. No of the post-Cold War thinkers would have ever imagined that our president would be this stupid and bring us close to World War III.
Well, but here's something that Bandit and I talk about regularly, actually, and it's the way that the strategy of the Russian military works. And what they do best is catch you lunging, and when you're off balance, that's when they're going to absolutely bludgeon you to death.
Yeah,
they've got numbers, and these guys are all. What have they got to live for? The quality of life that the majority of those Russian military men came from is not worth going back to. They've got nothing, no future. It's a bleak outlook. It's a shitty life,
Well, Russia isn't good at fighting offensive wars, but they're really good at fighting defensive wars. And you're not going to defeat them in land that they own that belongs to them, and they think part of Ukraine has belonged to them for 1,000 years. Kiev used to be the Russian capital.
Russia never won a war by being technologically superior to the enemy.
They always did it with numbers.
It's brute force, man.
Brute force.
Come on now.
Yeah, they're better fighters than anyone because they're angrier than everyone.
Well, they had some decent technology in World War II, but that said, they still won it with brute force, and they won it because Germany, Hitler was an idiot too. Okay, he made one stupid mistake militarily after another, and so he bailed a lot of the world out. But the Russians, it's really hard to beat the Russians on their own ground. It's just not. It's really silly to try to do it.
Yep.
And some of the rhetoric that is being used is just it's irresponsible as you can get. And I just can't understand it. It doesn't make sense unless there's something else going on that we don't understand.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on we don't understand.
There's a lot of things that we don't understand.
A lot. And I wish people would just forget about that, and worry about what's going on here in our own country.
That's right.
Can we just worry about this right now?
That's right.
The Fed's just hiked another quarter point, man.
Why? Oh, the entire system's imploding. Let's make it worse. So
they have to, because the debt's so high.
So our credit rating's already gone down. People also don't generally know that the American system's credit rating went down.
And they want to give me a credit rating? Give me a freaking break, man.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, the usual meme is that the United States has 32 trillion in debt, but they dare give me a credit rating.
Well, those have been in existence since the 80s, by the way.
What?
Credit ratings to like get into houses and shit.
It started in the 80s. I can't remember when it did start.
Started in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And women couldn't have credit cards until when? Until the 80s too?
Maybe.
Probably.
I don't know.
I believe women couldn't have credit cards until the 80s in the United States.
Wow.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember.
Wow.
But that might be true.
Well, what is it? Women couldn't vote until in Switzerland until like the 90s. Like the world is a strange place and weird things happen at weird times. But I do think at least potentially there is a positive outlook to things because so many people are becoming more aware of the problems that they can actively feel empowered enough to believe in the collective actions that the collective takes and actually rise up to the occasion because they actually think, wait, if my neighbor's doing it, then all my neighbors are doing it. And then my cousins in the other cities are doing it. And then my brother in the other side of the country is doing it. If everybody suddenly understands at least some premise of the main idea, which is the government screwing us and we need to do something as a mass, go to work. If people just don't go to work for a week.
Like really, like
that's
not the COVID type thing, like actually taking a stand and being like, screw you guys.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Well, it might come down to that.
I hope so.
There's no way to win an election. It's going to have to come down to some rebellion.
And the thing is, it's already happening in Europe. So in this weird situation, Pluto is going around the like our solar system.
Yes.
And 247 years ago, the French Revolution was happening, and the American Revolution was happening, 1776. So, what's gonna happen? And in this case, is France indirectly gonna start it up again, as it did 247 years ago?
Started up again. Have you seen? I mean, France is already there.
The picture where the cops are all on fire.
Yeah, cops are outnumbered and they're done. I mean,
the cops are starting to give up. They're like, we're not doing shit.
You guys remember
anymore.
a couple of years ago when the firefighters were lighting themselves on fire and fighting the cops?
That was epic.
that was that.
And the thing
The
is,
French know how to riot. Yeah.
the thing
Yeah.
is, also people don't understand in France, a big portion of those protesters are the socialists. So indirectly, I don't know to what degree those collectives are and what's their agenda. And here, look, the socialists that are pushing the stupid things related to critical theory and just all the sexual stuff that they're pushing in the school systems, which makes absolutely no sense to anybody with a functional brain cell. That's garbage. That's Mao. That's China. That's Chinese. And that's Chinese influence.
That's right.
That's Maoism. You convert, you make the women men and you make the men women. That was Mao. That was a cultural revolution.
It's just to destroy the society.
Yeah, Mao was an incredible genius and super evil. Mao was truly the definition of an evil villain.
Right. Very evil.
So you guys, I hope you're excited tonight because I actually have some really, really good random internet questions that I come up with tonight because we've had our little vacation break.
I've missed this.
I know, and so I've been searching for these, and so Tim, I'll fill you in, man. We have this segment of the show where I have an AI generator give me some completely bonkers, off the wall questions to ask my guests and, of course, the rest of the panel as well, and the answer. And it's always a good time because you never know where these are going to go. Tonight's that I'm using, if you guys ever want to check it out, comes up as the pleasantconversation.com, and it's another one of these random question generators that I've found on here. So I'm going to just go down here onto the ones that it's got pulled up for me already because I've been reading them while we've been sitting here the past few minutes, and these are really good. So our first question for tonight, Tim, to kick it off with you is, what is the most exaggerated yet supposedly true story you've ever told?
Wow. Boy, that's a hard one. Oh, it might have. Wow,
I brought you to a pause.
I think you stumped me. I'm trying to think of where so you're saying exaggerated but supposedly true?
Yeah.
But not necessarily true?
Absolutely.
Oh, I got one.
You can run with it where you'd like.
Oh, I got one.
Oh man. Why don't you go with yours and let me think a little? Because
Go
I'm
ahead,
honestly
Bandit. I'll let you have first while he thinks for it.
Okay, so it's it sort of feels exaggerated, but okay, so it would have been just shortly after high school, and I know for everybody else it's like, whoa, that was a long time ago, and well, it would have been just after high school, probably 2000. I went to a local club, and Vanilla Ice's hard rock band was playing. Okay. He had a metal band, Vanilla Ice. He had a metal band. The crowd was just rabid. And my brother and I pushed our way to the front. And this woman next to us was like, oh my God, can you sign my Vanilla Ice doll? Can you sign my Vanilla Ice doll? Still like perfect, in mint condition, still in the box. Vanilla Ice doll. She threw it up on stage and he was like, fuck this doll, and threw it on the ground and set it on fire in front of everybody. It was just, yeah, Vanilla Ice. Hard rock band set a Vanilla Ice doll on fire on stage.
That's actually pretty awesome. I totally hope it's true.
I like to leave, I won't, of course I could probably tell a story from a deployment in one of my Middle Eastern countries, but I'll keep it tame and keep it stateside.
What you got?
That's classified.
No, it's not. It's just those things. Every vet has a out of control story from deployment overseas, you know? So I felt I'd just tell one from my semi-normal civilian life.
Fair. Ox, we haven't heard too much from you this evening, buddy, and I miss hearing from you. So I'd like to hear yours.
All right. So this is, by the way, an entirely true story if you choose to believe it this way. And this is exactly what happened from my perspective. As you guys probably know, I'm really into heavy metal and punk rock. I went to go see a punk show, and there's this fucking lady around here who goes to all these punk shows, and her whole deal is she's the carrot lady, whatever that means. And she was wearing like bands of carrots all around her, like a sash and like a skirt and all that shit. Some guy rips a carrot off and throws it up on the stage mid-set, and the singer of this punk band shoves it up his ass and then proceeds to remove it and eat it.
Yeah.
Yes!
That was crazy as hell. It was crazy as hell. I swear to God, it's true.
I think I know that band. I think I've been to a show similar where something has happened quite similar to something like that.
Tim is like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm going to be able to say. I don't know what I'm going to be able to say.
I was going to tell a ghost story, and that doesn't even fit. That doesn't even close to
Tell it.
Unless this ghost shoves a carrot up his ass.
Hey.
Well, let's hear it, Tim. If you got yourself a story put together, finally.
Well, when we were kids, the house we were in was supposedly haunted, and multiple people saw things. My brother saw. It was a little kid, and apparently he died in the house. And in the 30s, the 1930s, it was an old house in Seattle. And we heard him before we saw things float off the mantle and slam onto the ground. My mom did a Ouija board to try to find out who it was, and she supposedly got a name of the kid, and then went downtown Seattle and looked it up in the city and found out that someone with those initials had died, and it was a little boy. And I actually personally heard him moving pots and pans around in the kitchen one night when everyone else was asleep. And I listened to it for about 20 minutes, and then I went to sleep. And that just seems like such a crazy story, but it happened numerous times. My mom was always getting angry initially with Joe, my younger brother, because she thought he was going in the kitchen at night and moving stuff around, because she'd get up in the morning and there'd be a big mess in the kitchen. But it took her a while, but everybody finally realized there really is a ghost there. And he does do things, and Joe, my brother, did see him, and he scared the crap out of my grandma one night by playing around under her bed. And that really happened, but it probably sounds exagerated to other people.
No, man. You know,
No,
stories here, man.
I think we do have plenty of like personal experience with like haunted houses.
Yeah, I have. I never had any with anywhere else, and nothing from that house ever followed us to other places.
That kind of leads me in. That'll lead me into what I want to share with you guys, and we'll get to Louise last on this question. You know, I had a lake house at one point in time in life, and it has been my absolute most favorite house that I ever lived in, and it was terribly haunted. Like whatever it was would run across the floor in the basement, but it would run across the floor like upside down. It was the ceiling of the basement, but my floor.
Wow.
It would slam drawers all night long. It has thrown silverware. It has pulled down blinds. It lit a bed on fire in a spare bedroom that was used for nights that we had a good old party time and somebody needed a place to crash. When it was empty, it did this. And like this continued the entire time I was there. And I actually did a little bit of research myself to figure out what had gone on in there. And it had turned out that a gentleman that had built the house originally totally decided to hang himself in the basement when he was done with life. And that is what I will attest 100% to being what was the haunting, because even our good friend Miss Vicky over there, the Born Awake Oracle, she's a medium that we've had on here a few times, has told me multiple occasions that yes, I'm not crazy. That was definitely a big haunting in my house. Like something big time happened there, and that's what we found. So it's pretty wild stuff, man. Like haunted. It's like a key to another dimension or something. Like if something super bad happened and that energy is just stuck there.
Yeah, it's almost like a picture, a negative that gets a. You ever seen a negative in an old picture that it has a flash on it? It's almost like, and it just keeps repeating itself.
Yeah, over and over, man. Yeah. All right, Luis, what's your story?
I mean, honestly, I really can't think of one. That. I mean, the only one I could think of is real as hell and too screwed up to say here.
Oh.
So
well,
only reality comes into mind, and it's so dark that it's not.
Well, then I'm gonna bump you first for the second question that came up off of this one that I wanted to ask this evening. I think you guys will have a good time with is, what is the dumbest answer you ever gave in an oral exam?
Damn. In an oral exam, meaning I have to speak, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
What's the dumb? I guess we could make it a little easier and say, what's the dumbest thing you've ever said to somebody, and probably got away with it.
I know one.
Yeah, because I'm just like blank out.
And I've probably done a lot of stupid things. I know I have, but this was kind of when I was a high school kid, I got to spend some time in Australia, which was just awesome. And I was spending time with this really nice family. And one question I got tired of was, how come we know so much about America, but Americans know so little about Australia? And they must have asked me that 10 times. And I got frustrated by it. And I finally said, I finally said, and I was a teenager, so not very brainy. And I finally said, well, maybe if you can blow up the world 3 times, people are going to need to know more about you. And I just felt so stupid when I said that. And I know it dropped me down quite a few notches in front of them. And it was just a stupid thing I said as a teenager. But I was just trying to get out from under always trying to defend Americans' bad knowledge of other countries. So anyway, I don't know if that makes much sense, but
Louise, what you got?
It's hard for me to fathom because honestly, I have said in past podcasts in the last year things that I should have not said. So if anything, it would be in the journey of podcasting that I have uttered things that have banned people, that might one day get me on a blacklist, that will one day make the government say, we should put that guy on a no-fly list. Even though I have not a threat to anybody or anything, and I'm a kind human being that is not going to harm anybody, the government has different interpretations of the concept of speech.
Yep, that's true.
Fair. Ox, what you got for me, buddy?
I remember being in 6th grade, and they had some sort of spelling bee thing that they were doing in my classroom. It was like all the kids had to get up there and do it, right? And they were trying to, I guess, gauge to see which kids would represent each class in the school spelling bee. I didn't want any part of it, but I was a damn good speller. And they tried to give me a really hard word, and I walked up to the microphone, and I literally said, nope. And I literally walked right back around.
Hip hop anonymous.
Okay, but do you kind of remember the word? Because I'm curious of like what construct of the word.
No, I can't remember the word. It was like some word that like literally made no sense at all. It was probably like It was very long.
Doinkle.
I would assume it was Latin or something. I don't know.
That's great. Come on, Bandit. I know you probably said something.
So, in front of one of my promotion boards when I was in the military,
Oh God.
I had to sing the division song, and it was so bad that all of the higher ups that sat on my board were like, "You are the white guy that gives the rest of us white guys bad names when it comes to singing."
That would be me.
Mind you, I still got promoted though.
Were you in the time they also did buckets of ice water when you get promoted?
That was that was later on, man. They still gave you your blood rank, your blood stripes.
Okay, because I know my friend went through a time where after you got promoted, they would like pour a bucket of ice water on you.
That's nice. I wish I would have gotten that.
After you did like 150 push-ups or something, like
I wish I would have gotten that.
They first torture you with hundreds of push-ups, and then they would just pour ice water on you.
We still had pin on rank times when I got promoted that pinned on the lapel, and they took the dammits off the back,
they would pin it on
pins, and everybody would come up to you and hit you on the lapel.
Yeah. They also do that.
And when they switched to the rank later on that was Velcro right here in the middle of the chest, they would punch you in the chest to put the Velcro rank on you. But I got hit one time so hard that it pinned
the bone.
I got promoted in Iraq, and I had my weapon slung, and they pinned it so hard so many times that it went through the nylon sling of my weapon, through my uniform and into my skin. That, I pulled,
Yuck.
Why is your uniform full of blood? You evil.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys are here listening to the show, so there's plenty of things that I know I've said that are dumb too. I'm right there with Louise, so there's plenty of episodes to go back and find.
Not just said, but or tried to say.
They are the stupidest things I have likely said in my entire life have been recorded.
Yeah, it's not just the said, Jimmy. It's with you. It's the tried to say.
Oh yeah, because I can't pronounce things for nothing.
It gets stuck.
Yeah, that too. I get on a little repeat, and my brain freezes, and I don't know where to go with it. Yeah, that's fair.
I think we're all in that boat. I think even Ox, who's only been on a handful.
I got somebody almost banned from YouTube. I think twice. Like, that's not fun. And I don't know which part I said. I don't know exactly what that I said.
Jimmy, I got you. When we were on Rebel Radio, or
wait, just Saturday? I missed it.
No. Here it is. It was. They warned us before the episode.
Don't say swear words.
Don't drop an F-bomb.
I made it to the last 5 minutes of the show,
and I thought I was going to be the one to do it.
I would have done it probably before all of you.
As soon as Jimmy did it, I was like, how did he beat me to it? How did he beat me to it? And I was just like, wait a minute. It happened so quick. I was like, what? Wait.
And I went dumb. I went, I'm sorry, everybody. Like, I broke the one rule. At least I waited to the end.
Oh man, that was.
Go ahead, Tim. I know you were trying to say something a moment ago. I do apologize.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I've said things on this show that were things that could get me in trouble. So,
unfortunately, welcome to the club. As I try to warn folks ahead of time, and I do a bad job at doing, is if you're speaking to me, there's likely some kind of way that they might take a peek at your. At
the
other side of the camera.
Him and company as propagandist and misinformation agents.
So
I don't know who's paying Jimmy, but I'd like to learn more and like to learn how are they paying him. Like,
I would like to know where the money's going because
Yes.
man, it would be great to have.
How is he an agent of misinformation? And how rich is Jimmy really? It's like he's showing us all these places. I'm like, no, bitch, I own these places. I'm just showing them to you. But and like he owns this like a company that he works for. He doesn't move anything. It's like
I wish.
it's all a lie, and Jimmy's just been like playing with us, and he's actually part of some operation.
So I think this last question is proof that the thing was listening to me tonight and our conversation a little bit. And I think it's a good question to go along with this show is, and we'll whoever wants to ring it first can have it first, and that's fine. But which cryptid type fairy tale type creature thing do you find to be the most ridiculous, utter nonsense?
Tooth fairy.
That's not a cryptid, though.
No, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take tooth fairy. That's totally something.
I could much more easily believe if you said there was some nefarious being out there who took specific interest in the bones of children. I'd be like, yeah, I'll bite. But like,
you need to watch the movie Darkness Falls. Then,
okay,
I will have you looking at the tooth fairy differently.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Bandit, what you got?
Which cryptids? Basically, which cryptid? It sounds
or fairy tale creature.
Fairy tale creature.
I'll take that too because that's what the tooth fairy is.
That's what the tooth fairy is.
Yeah.
But they can be I think they can be. They're one and the same. You know,
they are.
So
They
creature
are.
versus cryptid. I think they can. I think that's mine. I don't.
To me, they are. Unicorns are fairy tale and cryptid.
Man, I live in Appalachia. I don't want to say. I live in Appalachia, man. I don't want to say anything bad about cryptids, man.
But fairy tales.
You must be out of mustard seeds.
I
don't know, man. I don't know.
What you got?
I don't think any of them are the most.
I mean, to me, fairies to a degree sound completely ludicrous. Like tiny humans that are like this big sound absolutely ridiculous and bonkers to me.
I think leprechauns maybe.
Leprechauns.
I'm totally real, you guys. I promise. And there is a pot of gold at the end.
I take offense to that.
Did you see the breakdown of what what leprechaun, that whole thing comes from? Was a real tribe of people that lived in Ireland that then was exterminated.
Short.
That was exterminated. It was a real group of people that was exterminated. They were called leprechauns.
I never heard of that.
Not all of
Yeah,
us.
they were black. That's part of the
away.
reason you might have not heard of that, because it was a genocide that happened in Ireland.
Huh.
Oh, there's that. That's a pretty history of the leprechauns that most people don't know about. It was a real group of people, like pygmies, that was exterminated in Ireland.
Politicians are the fairy tale creature I don't believe in.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. I'll go with that. Politicians.
Oh, the politicians tell the truth. Yeah, there you go.
Just in general, like I just, we don't know what's really true on the other side of that idiot box. That's why I have one on my side too, because, I figured it works out. Let's be real. That's how it is. So,
what do you guys think of Dogman?
Dogman, we've actually had a guy on here that talked to us about some Dogman once before too, and I'm right up there in the belief of he's right there along with something to be with Bigfoot as well.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about. I wonder if it's not kind of demonic.
That's a perspective I've heard as well, actually.
Because I've done a little bit, not too much, but a little bit of research, and they don't seem to be as confined to being in the woods. They're often sighted in other places that don't seem to have a need to hide. And I just wonder if there's not more to it than just a Bigfoot type creature. I sure wouldn't want to come across one.
Well, I mean, when you get along the lines of thinking how there are different, different versions of Bigfoot, different versions of a similar creature seen around the world, it could be along the lines of another version of it, or even, you know, maybe some kind of like bad version of it or something that even it's against. The one guy I talked to before, he was on the understanding that Bigfoot and Dogman were friends, which, I found that an interesting perspective too. So I guess you could really go any way with it. And Dogmen go back to, even like Europe and stuff prior to being popular down in like the Southeast and Louisiana and the Gulf and such. So there's totally a plausibility of some kind of werewolf, dogman type cryptid running around, I think, at least. Like that's
Now,
definitely one I buy into.
what's the name of that one in New Orleans, in Louisiana? What do they have a different name
They
for 'em?
do. They have a funny name for it, and I am definitely not the
Is it
person to.
Boogaroo or something, or
Yes.
huh?
Lugaroo, yeah.
Something like that?
Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of I always thought that was a very strange name.
Yeah, I have no idea what it means besides, what we translate it to essentially, which is dog man.
Yeah.
And that's that's another thing too, like translation of all these different languages and trying to translate things into English. We've lost quite a bit and made up some of our own along the way. So it's quite a feat in its own. I'll retaliate even on the fairies on Luis a little bit. Like, I don't know, we make sure we don't invite the fairies in because they're tricky little fellers, and I don't know, man. I think there's something there, something going on. I don't think they're more or less tiny little people flying around. I have different perspectives, but that's just because I do think the tiny little people like Tinkerbell, I think that's a ridiculous like thought process on it myself personally. Like I'm like, no, that's stupid. That's not what they'd be. They'd be more like, I think they'd be more looking like the things from the little demon spawn things from the Snyder Justice League thing that were attacking Dark Suit Batman or whatever. No one. That's me. My bad. So, well, of course, I always like to go around you guys and get some last final thoughts from everybody else around the table on the evening and give the guests an opportunity to be able to tell everybody where they can, follow you at and find you out with anything else you got going on. So Tim, where can the folks listening and watching across the world be able to come back and check your stuff out at?
I'm on Instagram. It's just tomato dash or underscore fields. Name Tim Moon. That's a good place. That's a pretty active place. You can reach me by looking up Tomato Fields on Amazon, and the book has all my contact information. And on Instagram, there's a link that you can link to my email if you want to get on my email list and hear more about books. And I'll send you the link for the book if you want to put it in the show notes. Yeah, but if you look up Tomato Fields and my name, Tim Moon, it's pretty easy to remember. It comes right up on Amazon.
Oh yeah, we love to make sure that everybody out there, regardless of if you're listening or watching, in the description you can find links to get back to all of our fantabulous guests. And I appreciate you making some time to set aside this evening and come hang out with us, man. It's always good conversation when we make new friends, and you're always welcome to come and join us again, man. So as I was saying, I do like to give everybody an opportunity to give them any like final thoughts and such before we leave out for the evening. So you got anything for the folks out there listening and watching?
Just don't believe everything you see. Okay. And don't believe or don't disbelieve everything's just because you're not seeing them.
Fair. I like that. Luis, I'm gonna go to you first this evening when he finishes that, okay?
I think that's pretty good.
Luis.
And mystery is a good thing. We should like mystery, and We shouldn't run from it. We should run toward it.
I agree with him. The world is full of mysteries, and it is part of what makes this amazing, beautiful, oblique spheroid an interesting space that our souls landed on. And we should truly discover its wonders and learn to work together so our descendants enjoy it everlasting for all time.
Ox, my friend, I am so glad you were able to be here and sit in with us this evening, man. I know you're always a busy man, but I'm glad you made time to join us this evening, man. So I do appreciate that. What you got for me?
Man, well, one, just as always, really happy to be here, and two, great talking with you guys about everything A to Z on this one. I feel like we covered a lot of topics and a lot of people interjected a lot of opinions and ideas. And this is another one for the books, really great episode, you guys.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. And I look forward to when you get to come back and join us again, man. It's always an exciting moment when you get to be in here and have some fun with us, man. We miss you around here, buddy.
I'm just being on. I'm going to do everything I can to keep on coming on more consistently, hopefully soon.
Fantastic, man. You keep at it and don't let them kill you out there in the working world. I know how it can be.
I'll do my best.
Bandit.
Man, I came so close to getting ducks and turkeys today, man. Like,
no.
You gotta,
turkeys, yes.
Yeah, you have got to know when to say. My thought for the day is you just got to know when to say no when it comes to stuff like that, man.
Don't do ducks, bro. Don't do ducks.
I did ducks already, man. I had ducks.
Don't fall into that.
I won't do ducks again. I just did, man. You got to know when to say no.
I would have gotten a turkey though. I'm all for some turkeys. They're as easy as chickens. They're just bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
You probably could have.
But other than that, man, it's been good. It's been good. Coming back from, I guess all of us had a vacation. You took a vacation. Well, I guess we all took a vacation.
The mixture
good to be back.
The mixture of the computer crashing and the me taking an actual vacation all happening at the same time kind of worked out. So I think we'll be good and things will get back to rolling. Hopefully you guys will see us a little more consistent out there. Of course, I appreciate each and every one of you out there over there on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, checking us out on the visual episodes. Sorry, things are a little iffy with this because again, I'm running on some peg legs right now as it is, but we'll be back to full capacity here real soon. And all the folks out there listening, man, you guys all those listening channels, you guys can always come over and check out some of the watchable channels as well as keep up with things at unconstitutionalawakening.com, including where you'll be able to find all the links to get back to Tim. Check out Tim's book, check out Tim on Instagram, keep up with what he's got going on and see other places that he's gone and had conversations with, man. We always like to encourage that and hopefully we'll get to see him back here one day soon. So, and while you're over there at unconstitutionalawakening.com, you guys will get to continue with, because I can't stop giving away free stickers, man. So we're going to continue with our free sticker giveaway. And all you've got to do is answer my ridiculously easy pirate trivia question over there at unconstitutionalawakening.com underneath this episode in the podcast and more section. So tonight's question is, how deep is a fathom? Is it A, 1 foot, B, 6 feet, or C, 24 feet? You guys can answer that question over there. And I guess aside from that, we're going to weigh anchor and get on out of here. So good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks a lot.
Oops, sorry.